Okay, we'll call this hearing of the Senate Judiciary Subcommittee on the Constitution to order. I want to thank everybody for being here. Today's topic is protecting American citizenship, birthright citizenship for illegal aliens and tourists. This is an especially pressing topic given the Supreme Court will hear arguments in the Trump v. Barbara case next month regarding President Trump's executive order eliminating birthright citizenship for children of illegal aliens and temporarily present aliens. For years, the American people have been told that the Constitution requires the United States to grant citizenship to almost anyone born here, without any regard for such key questions like whether or not the parents were in the country legally in the first place. That claim has shaped our immigration system and our politics for decades. It has also reshaped how many people think about what it means to be an American. But if you actually read the Constitution, examine the ratification debates, and research the common law, that claim is far from obvious. This debate is not just about immigration policy, it's about the meaning of American citizenship. Citizenship is not just paperwork issued by the government. It's not a bureaucratic label. Citizenship is the essential bond between a nation and its people. In a republic like ours, that bond carries enormous weight. Because in the United States, sovereignty doesn't belong to a king or a ruling class. It belongs to the American people themselves. Citizenship defines the legal recognition of who the American people are. Citizenship defines the political community that governs the United States. It defines who exercises the sovereign authority of this republic. For most of our history, Americans understood citizenship in straightforward terms. It reflected allegiance to the United States. It meant loyalty to this country and attachment to its institutions. It meant belonging to the American nation. But over the past several decades, that understanding has steadily been pushed aside. Lawyers, activists, and policymakers in Washington have advanced the idea that citizenship has little to do with allegiance or membership in the national community. Under that interpretation, citizenship is devoid of connection to the American people. Instead, regardless of if your parents are tourists, foreign students, or illegally in the country, if you're born here, you are automatically a citizen in equal standing with the American people, even if you have no connection to the national community. This is a dramatic departure of how most nations understand citizenship and has produced predictable results. Foreign nationals travel to the United States late in pregnancy for the purpose of securing American citizenship for their children. An entire birth tourism industry has emerged around that goal. Illegal immigration is fueled by the belief that a child born here will receive automatic citizenship. And one of the most serious institutions of the American Republic is increasingly treated like a loophole in the immigration system. Citizenship should never be a loophole. Citizenship should mean belonging. Every serious nation recognizes that citizenship reflects membership in a national community. It reflects allegiance. It reflects loyalty to the country and its laws. Nations also recognize something else. They have the sovereign right to define the boundaries of their own political community. A nation that cannot determine who belongs to its political community begins to lose control of its own sovereignty. A nation that can't define who belongs to it has lost control of its sovereignty. The Constitution addresses this issue directly. The 14th Amendment provides that all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States. Those words matter. Subject to the jurisdiction thereof. That phrase reflects allegiance. It reflects political authority. It reflects belonging to the United States. The Citizenship Clause was written in the aftermath of the Civil War to correct one of the greatest injustices in American history. It guaranteed citizenship to freed slaves and their children who owed full allegiance to this country but had been denied their rightful place in the Republic. The Citizenship Clause was written to correct a grave injustice. It was not written to create an incentive to prop up our tourism industry or incentivize illegally crossing our borders. Yet today, that is effectively how it is treated. As part of today's hearing, we will also hear from Peter Schweitzer, whose recent work raises another concern tied to birthright citizenship. In his new book, The Invisible Coup, which was a #1 New York Times bestseller earlier this year, he investigated a rising Manchurian generation of Chinese nationals with CCP ties who have exploited the United States' automatic citizenship rules. China has sent individuals to give birth in America, securing U.S. citizenship for up to 1.5 million Chinese nationals who will spend their entire lives in China, but can vote in our elections, attend our schools, and receive our government benefits. President Trump's executive order has forced the country to confront this issue directly. It raises a basic question. Does the Constitution require the United States to grant citizenship automatically to the children of illegal aliens or temporary visitors? That question is now before the Supreme Court. But Congress has a responsibility to examine the constitutional text, the historical record, and the consequences of the policies we have today. That's why we're having this hearing, and that's why this hearing matters. And the timing of this discussion could not be more appropriate. This year, the United States marks its 250th year. 250 years ago, the founders created a constitutional republic built on the idea of self-governing people. Citizenship was the legal expression of that idea. It defined the community that governs the country. It defined the American people. For 2.5 centuries, the American Republic has endured through war, crisis, and enormous change. But institutions like citizenship do not endure by accident. Nations do not endure by accident. They endure because each generation chooses to defend the institutions it inherited. Anniversaries like this one are not only moments to celebrate our history, they're also moments to ask serious questions about our future. Who are we as a people? What does it mean to be an American? And what institutions must we protect if the American experiment is going to endure for another century and beyond? Few institutions are more central to these questions than citizenship itself. Citizenship is the legal expression of the American people. It carries the responsibilities of freedom from one generation to the next. If citizenship becomes detached from allegiance and belonging, the institution itself begins to weaken. If citizenship loses its meaning, the foundations of the republic begin to weaken from within. So the question before us today is a simple one. Is American citizenship the inheritance of a nation and its people? Or is American citizenship simply a hollow legal definition without protections against fraud, abuse, and bad actors? Protecting the meaning of American citizenship is not just a matter of immigration policy, it's a matter of preserving the American Republic and the American people. I look forward to hearing from our witnesses today, but before we do that, I want to recognize the ranking member and my friend of the subcommittee, Senator Peter Welch, for his opening remarks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for calling this hearing. And it is at a time where immigration policy is fraught and is conflicted. I want to thank our witnesses for being here. First of all, our nation was built on immigrants. Our nation was also built on slave labor. And our nation had this Dred Scott decision, which literally said African Americans were not citizens, not entitled to be citizens. And what that wrong was finally righted when that Dred Scott decision was overturned by the constitutional amendment that did establish the right of citizenship by birth. But Mr. Chairman, you say, and I think this is a fair question, does citizenship be conferred just by birth? Legally, most scholars say it is, and I believe it is. But real citizenship is embracing the responsibilities every single one of us has to live up and promote the ideals that every person is created equal and has an opportunity to be their best self and contribute to the betterment of our country. So this argument about what's legal and what isn't, and I believe it's very clear that the law says if you're born here, you are a citizen here. That is just the beginning. It is up to each and every one of us to accept the responsibility we have to create a more perfect union. We're at a fraught time. What we're seeing is a rampage by ICE in the name of so-called protecting our citizens. We've had a debate in this country about open borders, and Mr. Chairman, there's been success in closing the border. A country does have a right to define what its borders are. We've had a debate about deporting criminals. Criminals are being deported. But what we're now seeing is a reckless rampage of mass deportations. And where people who have been here and are working hard in this economy, creating jobs, serving in the military, those people are being picked up by masked agents. And we saw how extreme it is in Minneapolis, where a 37-year-old nurse, a 37-year-old mom of 3 were both shot down without any justification. And this is in the name of a so-called enforcement of citizenship. The constitutional rights that we're talking about at this hearing, they're being violated. They are being violated. And what this hearing has to be about is ensuring that we protect the constitutional rights of people who are entitled to them in this country. One of our witnesses here, Alejandro Barranco, a Marine, 2 brothers, Marines. His father, a landscaper, was arrested with guns drawn, no criminal record, and has not been deported, but that was because he had a status that was being challenged. He was picked up in that way. That is wrong. So what we're talking about here is not just about the legal definition of citizenship, because it's on us to have enforcement mechanisms that work, a judicial system that works, but in the name of like cleaning out everybody who has a questionable status, and you end up 86% of the people who are arrested have no crime at all associated with them. Where this man, Alejandro, and his 2 brothers are Marines and their father is picked up. That is of concern to me, and it's of concern to the American people. The enforcement actions of ICE have been on a rampage. They're trampling on the rights of the people of this country. It's time for us to protect constitutional rights, not violate them. On the question of birthright citizenship, that's illegal, all right? That is illegal. So there's a lot of room here for people who are concerned about the border and concerned about the future of our country and concerned about the responsibility that anybody has who's here to contribute to creating a more perfect union. There is opportunity for us to work together, but we will not, I will not submit that an executive order by a president can overturn a Supreme Court decision. I yield back.
Thank you, and I want to turn the floor over to Senator Durbin.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. As members of Congress, we take an oath to support and defend the Constitution. So does the President. To quote former Chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Mark Milley, quote, "We don't take an oath to a king or a queen or to a tyrant or a dictator, and we don't take an oath to a wannabe dictator. We take an oath to the Constitution. We take an oath to the idea that is America." And yet here we are today to talk about an effort by the President of the United States to undermine the Constitution and overturn black-letter constitutional law and statute by royal fiat. Section 1 of the 14th Amendment of the United States reads, I quote, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States." In 1898, the Supreme Court held that the Citizenship Clause of the 14th Amendment guarantees citizenship to the children of foreigners present on U.S. soil, even if their parents are not eligible to become U.S. citizens. In 1952, Congress enshrined this holding into law. Birthright citizenship is the law of the land. But President Trump believes he can issue an executive